Welcome back. So just who are the PKK? Well, for 3 decades now, the Kurdistan Workers' Party have been battling Turkey for a Kurdish homeland. With over 30,000 deaths since 1984, the group has been banned in many countries. The United States and the European Union have both designated the PKK a terrorist organisation. Despite this, though, they've urged Turkey to show restraint, fearing regional unrest. In particular, the US fears any Turkish attack will inflame the relatively peaceful northern Iraq, where the Kurds dominate. Yet Turkey is not the only country in the region to fight its Kurds. Neighbouring Syria also has problems with its Kurdish minority. On his visit to Ankara, the Syrian president was unequivocal in his support for Turkey, saying, "We support decisions that Turkey has on its agenda and we're backing them. We accept this as Turkey's legitimate right." Well, this support reflects wider regional concerns about the plight of large Kurdish minorities. There are no exact figures available on the number of Kurds, as countries tend to downplay their numbers, but some estimates put them at around 30 million. They're believed to make up at least 15% of the population in Turkey and Iraq and just under 10% in Iran and Syria. Well, let's rejoin our guests again in Ankara. İlnur Çevik, he's the editor-in-chief of the New Anatolian newspaper. In London, Fresh Tarepa, member of the Kurdistan National Congress. And in Washington, Dr. Ian Lesser, he's a senior transatlantic fellow. Ian Lesser in Washington, let me start with you. Is Turkey hopeful or confident, do you think, that Washington will perhaps look the other way if they cross the border into northern Iraq?
Well, I think they'll hope that we can't actually look the other way. It's impossible. The United States can live with this, but it depends on the scale of the operation. The United States lived with Turkey conducting fairly large-scale operations in northern Iraq in the mid-1990s, and we weren't pleased with it at that time. But the United States could live with it. Hopefully, the better solution is that the United States and Turkey simply do much more together to contain the problem of PKK violence in Turkey so that this isn't necessary.
Fresh Tarepa in London, let me ask you briefly, because in the 1990s, the PKK seemed to roll back on its demands for an independent Kurdish state and called instead perhaps for more autonomy for the Kurds. I mean, what exactly is the PKK trying to achieve now?
They try to achieve is a very, very basic right any human being, me and you and anyone else in that world will have an access of a basic education, access of a basic right that any human being has got. They call their children's name as a Kurdish, and they are allowed to write it down in a Kurdish, in an identification as a Kurdish name. Just a basic. For one example, lately Turkey, they just created a huge dam called Ilusu Dam on Hassan Cave. This caused a huge, a significant number of displacement and destroying the whole 2,000 years city will be destroyed under the water, and including a tea village will be destroyed. This is the type of the right these people are fighting for.
Well, let's just
what
put
they
that,
wanted to achieve.
OK, let's put that issue of rights to İlnur Çevik in Ankara. İlnur Çevik, I think what Fresh Tarepa in London is trying to say is that many Kurds want the Turkish government to do more to improve the rights of the Kurdish minority. I mean, she's correct, isn't she?
Well, she's correct to the point that, yes, there are some Kurds in Turkey who do not feel they are first-class citizens. And I, for one, are among the intellectuals in Turkey who have been struggling for these rights. We have even been called pro-PKK. So, I mean, I am one of the few who have really struggled for these people. But we have to make a distinction from the man who kills another man, a Kurdish baby and a Turkish baby and other people for certain rights. This is wrong. This is what my friend says is wrong as well. Kurds do want their rights, and we feel that those who do not feel they are being treated as first-class citizens because of the mistakes of the Turkish state have to feel this way. Thus, we need their rights and we need their cultural rights, everything. But this does not mean you have to grab the arms and weapons to kill people.
OK, let's just put another point to Dr. Ian Lesser, because Turkey has refused to negotiate with the PKK. In fact, they brand it as a terrorist organisation. Should Ankara perhaps look at a political solution, a little bit like what the British government did with the IRA?
Well, I think under the current conditions, with renewed PKK violence, it's very, very difficult for any Turkish government to go that route. I think what was possible, and there began to be a very interesting debate about this in Turkey, was whether Turkey could not lose some of its hang-ups, if I can use that term, about an independent Kurdish state in the north of Iraq. This has been a sort of nightmare scenario for Turkish strategists for years. But people over the last years have begun to think, well, you know, perhaps Turkey could take advantage of this. I mean, it would be a perfectly natural sort of partnership. Turkish firms are already there. Turkey is already very heavily engaged in the north of Iraq. And, you know, perhaps this could be turned to Turkish advantage. Turkey could live with it. It's a scenario that Turkey might well live with. Unfortunately, the ramp up in PKK violence has undercut the political constituency for that kind of thinking in Turkey and has set back the clock not only on the whole social debate about Kurdish rights in Turkey, but also about the geopolitical implications of having an independent Kurdistan.
Well, let's just put that point
so it's gotten tougher.
Let's just put that point about putting back the clock to Fresh Raper in London. I mean, many observers say that indeed there are splits within the PKK leadership. Is there a feeling that perhaps the PKK now should be looking to do less military operations and move more towards the political side of consensus and reconciliation and strike some kind of deal with Ankara?
After many years of experience with the KDP and PUK Galera action, I reached to the final conclusion. I disagree with any type of a military operation, especially with the PKK. The only way is a communication. The only way, even PKK, no matter what sort of excuse they've been for the right, you killing a Turkish soldier. A Turkish soldier is an innocent man, somebody's father, somebody's son, somebody's husband. The same thing for the PKK people. When you kill somebody, the same thing, father, son, kill. The military action by any of them, there is no excuse. And I am really hoping that Turkey will sit down and have a negotiation. And for the PKK urge Turkey many times, I am aware. Many times they urge them, they call for amnesty, they stop everything. But Turkey took it as a weakness point. They have no places, and they try to humiliate them and embarrass them. When people try to put down, when try to ask them for negotiation, that is not because these people or this group they are humiliated or they are in a weakness point, in a weakness position. No, try to grab them. Kurds are a nation in general.
Right,
they will settle for the least. So they better speak and they better communicate.
I want to just get a final thought from Ilna Çevik in Ankara. How much influence do you think other neighbouring countries have? I mean, like Syria and Iran. For example, the PKK leader, Abdullah Öcalan, 8 years ago at his trial, said that Tehran had been supporting the PKK. Briefly, if you will, because we're running out of time.
Well, there was some support from the Iranian side because they felt that they could use the PKK card against Turkey. So everybody was using the PKK against Turkey. Syria was using, Abdullah Öcalan was actually living in Syria. Syria was using the PKK card against Turkey. But in recent times, both countries, Syria and Iran, have seen what the problems are. For instance, the United States is now using the PKK through an organization called PEJAK against Iran. And they are undermining Iran's sovereignty in the Kurdistan area of Iran. So Iran has been complaining about
All right,
this
listen, we're just running out of time. So I need to get a final thought. I need to just get one final thought from Dr. Ian Lesser. What do you make of the influence of neighbouring countries like Syria and Iran? Very quickly.
Well, historically, it's been very, very important. And I think one of the most remarkable things is that Syria has actually come out and said that they would support Turkey's right to intervene across the border. This is something that Turkey and Syria almost went to war over in 1998 when Syria was harboring Abdullah Öcalan. So, I mean, the effect of neighboring states is very, very heavy in this. And it's one of the things to watch for the future in terms of the stability and instability, depending upon what Turkey does. Okay. And Turkey may not do anything.
All right, I'm afraid we have to leave it there. Dr. Ian Lesser in Washington, Fresh Raper in London, and Ilna Çevik in Ankara. Thank you all very much. And thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. Of course, we welcome your comments and suggestions. Please email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. From the whole team here, goodbye for now. Thanks for watching.